In episode number 268 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover House of Cards, the cancellation of one of my favorite TV shows of all time.
Yes, and this fall's Halloween Comic Fest held by local comic book shops across the country.
We also have GameStop's latest income, the Power Pass. How's that work? We'll explain in a bit.
And we'll also be covering our comic book highlight of the week. It's Dark Knight's Metal, the Merciless #1.
All of this and so much more on today's show. Hello and welcome to the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and so much more. I'm Daniel, and just like this series of shows that has been going on for the last 4 weeks, I want to say, our regular host, Kelli, is out on maternity leave. She will be back possibly as soon as in 2 episodes, so we'll see how she feels. She's definitely more on the upswing, and she's excited to get back in the host seat as well. But just like the Brokehead Corps came out during the podcast awards in full force, you came out to help out Kelli on the show and to help out in her recovery by filling in for her. So instead of there being a break on the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we've had shows where we have all kinds of people throughout the U.S. and all kinds of viewpoints as well on a lot of the news. And today is no exception. We've got another guest on, a longtime Brokehead, a longtime Patreon backer, John. You've heard him before. You've seen him chime in on the podcast. Yeah. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to thank you a million.
It's really great to be here. Yes, sir.
So I do want to thank you once again for being on. It's going to be one of the many times I thank you today. So just a heads up.
That's great, man. I love being here. I've always wanted to call in at least and say hi or whatever, but this is even better.
Yeah, this is great. And you were telling me earlier that this is your very first time podcasting, but you have done other video production in the past.
Right. Well, what I do is I work at a comic shop also, and every week we do a comic review, and we post it on our Facebook page, and get people to come in and see what we're reading and what's new out and everything. So it's been a fun experience. I've been doing that for a little over a year now, and it's kind of secondhand so far.
It does definitely work out, and this is going to be an interesting podcast or an interesting show because this is going to be for listeners a perspective of 2 comic shop workers and not just one. And obviously our comic shops, mine's in Florida, yours is in a different part of the U.S. if you want to say. Go ahead. Texas. All right, awesome.
In the heart of Texas.
So this will be fun because we can kind of dive into, like, my shop does this and yours does this. Yours does video reviews, which is great. Ours, we've started doing, I said, why don't we show off the comics, not like flip through them, but we started doing Tuesday night, New Comic Book Day showcasing. So we'll say, hey, coming out tomorrow, we've got this book here and, check it out, pick it up. And it works out really well because in the comments section, people are like, hey, can you drop that in my box? Hey, can you put that aside for me? So it seems like comic shops have to kind of evolve and use social media more to really engage with their customers.
Right. We kind of do the same thing. We usually film like right before we open, so we're like rushing to get it done, and sometimes we have to cut it a little bit short, but it's like right up to the minute we open in the morning.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Now, to give Brokettes a good background on you, John, what was your very first exposure to the world of superheroes? Whether it's the TV show, the movies, the comics. Where was the first time when you were like, what is this world here?
Oh man, this is gonna date me. It really shows my age, but I grew up in the 70s, and I started off with the Super Friends cartoon on Saturday morning.
Very nice.
And, also started off with the Adam West Batman show,
of course,
and the Superman TV show from the 50s with George Reeves.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those were big influences. I was in love with Batman, from the very beginning. So,
is Batman your favorite superhero out of all of them?
Oh yeah. He's my favorite. He's like my favorite fictional character. Period.
That's amazing. That's great. So, what's it been like for someone that has been with Batman for much longer than a lot of comic readers today, or even other people that seeing the character change, evolve, or even closer adaptations to the source material in various forms of media.
Well, it's been really great because, I mean, I love practically all forms of Batman. I mean, I love the Adam West. I love the Christian Bale, even the Val Kilmer. I was really excited when the Michael Keaton Batman came out in '89. I still remember seeing that one, and it was awesome in the beginning. So, I've learned over the years that the source material from comics is not going to always translate word for word or panel per panel. So I've learned to enjoy them for what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Much like, the Gotham TV show. It's so different from the comic, but I still enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a great thing to always keep in mind and to always remember. And I think that would do a lot of good to a lot of the viewership and a lot of the fans, because it seems to be like the fan base gets really toxic when something is different from what they remember or what they read. Exactly. And they forget that this is kind of a golden age of comics and material that you're getting. It's not like, oh, maybe we'll get a superhero movie once every 3 years if we're lucky.
Yeah. I remember the Marvel movies from the '90s, which were horrendous. We were always laughing about those, and now they're making big bucks.
Absolutely.
Even though you and I might not enjoy them as much as some people, but they're still pretty popular these days.
Did you watch that Fantastic Four one, the very first one that they made just to keep the rights to the characters?
No, I missed the last one. I watched the first two. Came out with what's her face from
Sin City?
From Sin City, yeah.
Oh, no, I'm going even older. The one that's like it was made on $1 million, and it came out in I think it was in the late '80s or early '90s. And
no, I never saw that. I saw the Captain America one, I think.
I liked that one as a kid, the Captain America one.
Uh-huh.
But that's because that's the only Captain America thing I had at the time. But no, there was a Fantastic Four film that was made for, I really do think it was like $1 million, and they just made it so that they can retain the cinematic rights to the characters, and they didn't even do a full-blown release. They just did, I think they might have done like a very local release so that it qualified as a box office launch, just so that they can keep the characters until, eventually they did the Jessica Alba one. And you've got to check it out.
Yeah.
It's something else.
I haven't even seen the last one they put out. I heard it was so bad. So
it wasn't very good. I think people slammed it way more than they needed to, and maybe it's because they deep down want it to be a part of the MCU, so they kind of they didn't want it to do well. But I was rooting for it, and it just didn't deliver. And the Fox is going to keep the rights, as well they should, and they'll give it another shot in another 5 years or so.
Yeah. It just looks so different from what I've ever seen. So I was like, well, I'm not even going to bother. I'm going to read the reviews. If they're good, then I may watch it on video, but I just haven't.
No worries. So, and then was that about the same time you started collecting comic books too, during the Super Friends show?
No, actually, I didn't start collecting comics till probably '85. I had a local friend. We kind of grew up together. And he got me into comics. We had a local shop that had a bunch of comics, and he got into Star Wars comics. And I picked up a few things that I could find, like all the issues, because that was pre-internet days, and you couldn't find every issue if the local shop didn't have them. So, so I kind of started off in a big spot with Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Oh, nice!
Can you imagine trying to understand the whole big multi-universe when you're first getting into comics, and like, what, this is from this world, this is from Earth Z or whatever.
Oh yeah, that must have been intimidating.
Yeah, it definitely was.
I'd be like trying to, I guess, jump into the recent Marvel Secret Empire or even Rebirth. Like if you picked up that DC Rebirth one shot, and that's your first book, you're probably like, why is there two Flashes?
Which Wally West is the real one?
Yeah.
But I always try to get customers when they come to the store, start with Rebirth, or even start with the New 52, especially with Batman, because that's probably a good spot for people to start. There's no way you could go back and read the whole catalog of Batman and understand everything.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean,
It's
people
changed, evolved over the years. So
people shit on reboots or relaunches all the time, but I mean, in the long run, if they're done well, and the New 52 was successful, and then it's just kind of tapered off in sales near the end, but you can, the New 52 Batman Volume 1 will forever be in the top 100s.
Oh yeah. We're constantly reordering that trade all the time.
Mm-hmm. Along with Saga, Monstrous, The Killing Joke.
We don't sell Monstrous as much, but the other two, yeah. Saga's a huge seller too.
Absolutely. It's great. So awesome. You got into it with the Crisis on Infinite Earths. So that kind of gives listeners a rough idea and on where you stand on a lot of these comics. You love Batman. I love Batman. We're going to get along great.
Exactly. Especially when you talk about the animated series. I mean,
oh man, yes.
Because that was pretty much your childhood, but I remember it. They actually premiered a couple episodes at this Dallas show called the Dallas Fantasy Fair.
Okay.
In 1992, and I remember seeing On Leather Wings and maybe the first Poison Ivy episode. I think those two episodes they premiered, and it was just they showed it on this big screen at the show, and the reaction was crazy. People were like, "Wow, what have they pulled off? This isn't Super Friends. This isn't Adam West Batman. This is more like the Michael Keaton movie that's been out for 3 years."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it did take a lot of people forget that it did take a lot of influence from the two Tim Burton films, Batman Returns and Batman, but it then kind of evolved into its own thing and took more from the source material, like the first appearance of Ra's al Ghul got adapted into, my favorite 2-part episode, and that was The Demon's Quest. So it's just amazing what Batman the Animated Series did. And it's disingenuous to call it's a cartoon, but yeah, I mean, it's one of the best cartoons, and I'll argue the best cartoon of all time.
Right.
So with that, John, let's go ahead and jump. But we've got several items here. We've got first our hashtag games for the week.
All right.
So the hashtag game for this week, we had a couple of them. The first one was hashtag make a TV show scary. And my entry was I love spooky.
And I had like 3. I went off with them. Leave It to Cleaver. Big Fang Theory.
Nice.
And a recent one, The Slash.
Slash. Straightforward.
Yep.
My favorite's Leave It to Cleaver. That's perfect.
Thanks.
Another hashtag game that we also had was hashtag make a horror film less scary. So mine, I don't know if it qualifies because I still think it would be scary, is Stanley Kubrick's The Shindig.
That's pretty good. And Bobby from Facebook says, A Playtime on Elm Street.
Ben on Facebook said, Disney's Cabin in the Woods. I mean, that pretty much neutralizes the horror factor.
Oh, it does. And then Charles from Facebook also said, Stanley's The Thing.
Twitter user at Kyle Inge said, House of 1,000 Crepes. A lot of good entries. So thank you all so much for joining us on the hashtag games for the week. If you would also like to participate in the hashtag games, you can follow us on Twitter at Reasons I'm Broke, Facebook.com/The Reasons I'm Broke, and we may feature it right here on the podcast.
And what's next? The Halloween Comic Book Fest?
Halloween Comic Fest 2017. So let people know, because apparently not every shop does this. What exactly is Halloween Comic Fest?
Well, it's kind of a big event. It's almost like a fall free comic book day. The big companies and independents will send out free comics. Some are like the little mini comics like Casper the Ghost, and I think there was even Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
And so they give out free comics. Certain stores can have events like at our store, we had a costume contest. And we also had a $5 sidewalk sale.
Okay.
It's just another meet and greet for the comic book stores, for people promoting the store.
And
that type of thing.
How'd it go for your shop? Did you have a good turnout?
Oh man, it was amazing this year. It was our best ever. I mean, I'm not just kidding at all. It was nuts. Not as nuts as Free Comic Book Day, but
Right.
last year, I mean, we had people come in and get a few of the books, but this year it was chaos, and they took practically all our free books. It was like a tornado came through there.
That's good to
And
hear. No,
and
that's
I was stuck outside most of the day doing the $5 sale.
hmm
Basically, we got the scratch and dent boxes from Diamond, and it's like return items, you know.
yeah.
And we were selling the heck out of all these pop vinyls, Diamond Select, Nightmare on Elm Street. No, not Nightmare on Elm Street.
Before
Uh,
Christmas?
Night Before Christmas. Yes, thank you. So we got that. We got a bunch of those sold, and for some reason, people weren't as interested in the retro figures. You know what I'm talking about? That kind of look like the ones from the 70s.
The ones that are redone in a little bit larger form?
No, they're kind of like them. They're 3 3/4
Okay.
inch size. You know, like they had a Snake Plissken from Escape from New York.
Yeah.
Those type of figures, and nobody was interested in those at all.
Oh, well. Put them out next time for the next Halloween Comic Fest.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's always those figurines that are going to be there until the store closes. Like, there's always that product that like, even if you put it on sale, it's always just going to be there.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
ours.
I know. We have like a huge warehouse of stuff, and it's always hard for us to push out every little bit of our inventory, but we try at least 3 or 4 times a year.
hmm Yeah, you've got to do it, and just to get product moving and make more space. Our Halloween Comic Fest was a lot of fun. We had people come out in costume, took pictures of a couple of the customers, and we had like a little family of Guardians of the Galaxy. Like the mom was Gamora. We had a little Groot, and the official Halloween Comic Fest page actually shared it on their Facebook page. So we were like, "Oh, look at that! That's so cool!" Like, and it was a fun time. Like you mentioned, there was like a free comic book day type of event, awareness for the store. People are like, "Oh, I didn't know you guys were here, and I heard you guys were doing a Halloween thing." Subscribers coming in, and they're picking up some free books, and
Right.
yeah, it was a fun time. It was a really good time. At the same time, I also had a Pokemon pre-release that I was running in the store as well. So I had all this activity in the back of the store, and then all this activity on the front. So I was just kind of running back and forth between the register and the tournament. So it was chaotic, but I like chaos. I like busy. I don't mind it. I live in that.
Cool. Yeah, it always goes faster, and it's fun when you have a lot of people in there.
Absolutely. Definitely. So if the next big event is going to be Free Comic Book Day, then the first Saturday in May.
Yeah. I know some stores are doing like a Justice League Day for the Justice League movie coming out. It's going to be the Saturday after the release on the 18th.
With the free book, right?
Yeah, I think there's a free book. I think DC and Diamond are trying to get stores to participate.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how it's going to go. From experience in the past, people come in and they'll want to buy a trade or a comic featuring the characters from the movies they just saw. But it's really tough to, at least from my experience, to make like an event based on one day based on the movie, because there's only so much we can do on our end to it's not like we have a range of free comics. We have one free comic, and then we'd have to do a sale on our end for the product in the store. Yeah,
we generally try to put items up front by the register that deal with it, like with Suicide Squad or with Wonder Woman, things like that. We are always trying to promote the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of amazing back when the Power Rangers movie came out, it went nuts, and we weren't even prepared for that.
No way.
Yes, people were coming in buying whatever Power Rangers comics we had and asking if had the toys and such, and it was nuts because we're also a toy store or a vintage toy store.
Mm-hmm.
We have a large Star Wars room with a bunch of vintage Star Wars toys, He-Man, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
Batman the Animated Series.
Yes, those
Good.
two. So yeah, we're always getting people like that.
That's insane because we almost had no kickback on the Power Rangers movie. It was
Yeah.
really bizarre. We ordered the pops, and I think thankfully we eventually, like maybe a few months later, finally got rid of the final couple of movie based Power Rangers. But yeah, we didn't see kickback here, so that just goes to show the different. Even in a from town to town, the clientele is completely different.
Like from here to Austin or from here to Dallas, it's just different because people are, Austin's a whole different animal as far as Texas goes. They're just a different crowd there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always fun. We have a sister store down in Austin, and it's like 3 times as big as us, but their clientele is a whole lot different.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to see for sure. And with that, let's head on into what's new on Netflix for the month. So every month, the first week of the month, we do what's new on Netflix. So for this month, November 2017, if you want to see the full list, you're going to head on over to what's new on Netflix. If you type that in to your favorite browser, you'll find the full list. But these are just a couple of the highlights as they relate to things that we've seen or things that relate to the show.
All right. First off, we got Casper from 1995, Men in Black, Field of Dreams, Scary Movie, Silent Hill, and the new Marvel's The Punisher, a Netflix original.
Have you seen all of these yourself, John? Do you have any particular favorites or ones that you're looking forward to?
Well, I've always bought movies that I like, so some of them, no. Not this month, but I am looking forward to The Punisher because it's an original thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge Marvel fan, but I have been following like the Daredevil and Jessica Jones series.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this one might be pretty good because I like John Bernthal.
Right. Yeah,
I loved him in the second season of Daredevil. So.
Yeah, The Punisher has been getting a lot of buzz, especially that first trailer that came out. People went nuts. Like I had people coming in and talking, "Did you see that Punisher trailer? Oh my God, it was amazing." And I haven't seen it yet. So I'm like, "Oh man, maybe I got to see it." Like I was already going to check out the show cuz I liked the first season of Daredevil and I like Jennifer Jones, but Punisher I got to check out.
So are you trolling people when you say Jennifer Jones?
Yeah, that's the continued game or continued practice of whatever someone calls it incorrectly and not meaning to, usually it's a parent or a grandparent, that becomes officially the name. So that's how Kingdom of Hearts started when I worked at GameStop. That's how NBA, normally it's NBA 2K15 or 16, depending on the year of the video game. But one parent called in asking for NBA Y2K. So now they're Y2K forever. Like same with Game of Thrones, Jennifer Jones, trying to think if there's any others, but yeah, those are officially the names of these properties and shows and books. And sometimes I'll just sneak it in. Like that's just I get used to saying it that way. That sometimes it'll slip, and I can tell people are like they want to correct me, but they don't.
I just wondered if you realized what you're doing.
Oh yeah, it's definitely trolling. Casper the Friendly Ghost from 1995. I've got to see it. I have fond memories of that movie. I love the special effects. Like I want to say that they're still gonna stand pretty well. But I don't know. I could be wrong. Men in Black. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, Jurassic Park was like 2 years older than that, and it still holds up pretty well.
It really does. Some of those special effects, like you have some scenes that don't look as good, but those animatronics will always, in my opinion, maybe it's because I grew up with this stuff, but will always look more realistic to me than motion capture or CGI that we see today.
Yeah.
Men in Black, I'm not as excited for it. Like I did like it as a kid, but as I got older, it tended to be something that was on TV whenever I was homesick from school. So I always associate bad memories with that movie.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'd be on the couch like dying, and then Men in Black's on. I guess I'll watch. Oh, there's a lot of vomiting in this movie. I forgot. Like, and I'm stuck. I've never seen Field of Dreams.
You haven't? Well, I've seen it once. I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I've heard it's a great movie, so I watched it once. It didn't. I know it hit some people emotionally, but it didn't really resonate with me as much.
Yeah, I love baseball. I didn't even know it was a baseball movie, so I'm like, yeah, I'll watch that for sure. Scary movie, parody movie. You know, it's fun. It's whatever.
Yeah, it's fun for a few times, and then
Yeah, I agree. And Silent Hill, did you ever see this video game adaptation?
no, I haven't.
It was actually, for a little while there, considered by many to be the best movie based on a video game. And
Uh-huh.
I think that was until, man, what has topped it since then? I'd have to look at a list, but even me, I went in theaters and I saw it, and I saw Silent Hill, and it's like, even if you haven't played these games, this is a really good horror film. There's some beautiful shots in it. The special effects are great. There's some stuff you haven't seen in movies before yet. Yeah, you've seen in the video games, but never done in cinema. So it's visually, it's fantastic. It's got this weird tone to it. It's not like scary, but it's more, it's uneasy to watch. And, I don't know. I've always, recommended it if you want something kind of bizarre and horror themed.
Yeah, it's always good when a movie can stand on its own. It doesn't have to rely on the source material as much, especially any kind of book or video games or TV show. Sometimes it doesn't really translate as much because especially with video games, it's meant more like not a story, but just a shoot 'em up. How can you make a movie on like Pac-Man or Donkey Kong? But they did. They made cartoons back in the 80s. So
Right. Exactly.
yep. But it's always good when a movie can translate well without relying on the source material.
No, I agree 100%. But once again, if you wanted to see the full list of what's new on Netflix for this month, just head on over to Google or whatever you use, Yahoo, AOL, is that? I don't know if that's a search engine, and type in what's new on Netflix November 2017. But with that, we can jump into our bulk of the show, our news for the week.
Through a report with Buzzweek, Star Trek Discoverer, or the Discovery, star Anthony Rapp came forward with an allegation that House of Cards actor Kevin Spacey tried to have sex with him while he was 14 years old in 1986. Man, this must hit home with you because I know you're a big House of Cards fan.
Yeah, man, I saw it on Twitter, and I understand that this is like, it's controversial for me to say this a little bit, but it's this period where as soon as the Harvey Weinstein story broke, then everyone started looking for these older stories or digging up these older stories of what these actors did. Like, for example, the Ben Affleck thing that happened on TRL, that story had been out for many, many years. There was one of those recap shows that this particular host was on, and this was, I think, over a decade ago, and she said, oh, and then he reached over and, cupped my breast, and like they played it off as like, oh, that Ben is crazy. And then now she came out and she's like, no, he did these things to me also. Like, and all these other people are coming out. And so all these people are saying, oh, I can't believe all these people have been doing this. It's like these stories have been out, but now people because it's trending or it's trendy to bring this up. And I don't know what it's such a bizarre thing to me, because if this really mattered, if people really cared about these things, then this would forever be an ongoing thing, or they would have called them out many years ago.
Right. I mean, you've always heard of, the casting couch and how a lot of actresses get their job and stuff. And it's crazy. We don't really know the whole story of what's going on. And I don't know. There's so much going on. I mean, even with Bill Cosby and who else has gone on the record with having some sort of scam? Well, you said the Weinstein.
Right.
And, I mean, really, that kind of hits me a little bit hard, because there was my cousin. I've told you about my cousin. The viewers might not know, but he's a screenwriter, and his movie Wind River, which is out now on video, was released by Weinstein, and now they're trying to move away from the company. So it's got like a big chance of being Oscar nominated, or Golden Globe or something like that right now, and he's just trying to distance himself from the Weinstein Company.
No, I don't, and I don't blame him. And I'm sure that's also like a mandate for a lot of studios and screenwriters and actors. Like, probably even their agent saying, you should probably try to stay away from this, the line of fire as much as you can, because this is going to be a thing for throughout, and I think until the end of the year as these stories keep coming up.
Yeah, and getting back to our story, Anthony Rapp also was quoted as saying, "My memory was that I thought, oh, everybody's gone. Well, yeah, I should probably go home." Spacey, he recalled, sort of stood in the doorway, kind of swaying. My impression was that he came in the room and that he was drunk. He picked me up like a groom picks up the bride over the threshold. But I don't squirm away initially because I'm like, what's going on? And then he lays down on top of me like he's trying to seduce me.
End quote. Yeah. Kevin Spacey did come out with a statement on Twitter, somewhat confirming what happened, I suppose, but his statement said, quote, "I honestly do not remember the encounter. It would have been over 30 years ago, but if I did behave then as he describes, I owe him the sincerest apology for what would have been deeply inappropriate drunken behavior, and I am sorry for the feelings he describes having carried with him all these years. This story has encouraged me to address other things about my life. I have loved and had romantic encounters with men throughout my life, and I choose now to live as a gay man. I want to deal with this honestly and openly, and that starts with examining my own behavior." End quote.
We've had some reaction from, on Twitter, Scott Pressler says, "Oh, no, Kevin Spacey. You don't get to use your sexuality as a distraction from sexual assault. You just threw the gay community under the bus."
And at EA Calvary said, quote, "Kevin Spacey has set gay rights back 50 years by A, conflating homosexuality with pedophilia, and B, saying that being gay is a choice." End quote.
Right, and Deadline has since reported that that Netflix might be they will be canceling House of Cards after this upcoming season.
See, that's the part that killed me the most. So the way I react to seeing the statement and seeing the story, one, it was a bit of a sloppy statement. I don't know if Kevin wrote it himself or he had someone look it over, but to kind of pivot it into him coming out as gay, that's where most people, I think, got upset because it essentially has nothing to do with the fact that, this happened many years ago, and he kind of turned it into by the way, I'm now gay and I'm coming out. So it's more like, to him, the issue was more of, oh, people found out that I'm into men as well, and not so much that I drunkenly did this. And I understand that he doesn't remember it, and, maybe it may or may not be true. We don't know, and we won't know, but with the statement and the way it was handled, it's, people are like, yeah, this must have happened, and he admits to possibly being drunk at the time. And also Netflix got really shitty about it because they said, they put out this whole thing that's like, we're sure Kevin Spacey is not working. He's no longer filming or on set, and we're making sure that our cast members and workers are safe. And it's like, come on, man. You're acting like he's some fucking, I don't know, man.
He's some sort of serial killer or something.
Yeah. Like they're really, I get it. It's a fucked up thing to do if it happened, and, but it's just like, man, it's just rough. And I'm biased because I like Kevin Spacey. And even after this, I stand with Kevin Spacey. I'm like, let's get more House of Cards. This happened years ago. He apologized. Let's keep going. Like if he's doing this to people now, let's address it then. And, but it's not, or at least no one's come out and said, yeah, me too. And this would have been the time for it to happen. And it hasn't happened. So it's insane to me that, but I don't know, maybe it's unfixed, John. Like maybe even if he came out and just apologized, do you think that people would avoid House of Cards because of this story, or do you think this would blow over?
It depends on the person, really. I mean, there are certain people that will forgive him for his past transgressions. Some people will carry the grudge about it and say the heck with him, just sort of like Bill Cosby. I mean, you don't see him in public eye anymore. For what he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm of the opinion that I think people would have still watched House of Cards, and it would have for the most part blown over, simply because the nature of the show is very adult. It's got some heavy content in it. It's a very dark television show, and I think that most of the viewers that watch it are, I mean, they're a little bit twisted in a way to be seeing this, especially through all, if you're going to watch season 6, you're like, you've got to be a little bit twisted. So I think most of them would be like, it's all right. It happened years ago. Let's get another season. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
So season 6 was the last season, correct?
Whichever one is upcoming, and I think it is season 6, is now they're saying Netflix is canceling it. They're not going to do it. He's not working. So people think that it's going to be a very sloppy, like he's going to have a heart attack off screen or something.
Yeah, I'm behind on the season on this, so I haven't watched the last season that came out.
Some people have rumored that Netflix is going to do a spin-off television show and kind of rename it something else and then have Claire be the head star or have someone else. But it's like, look, as much of a fan of the show as I am, and even Kelly said it herself, like if there's no Frank Underwood, and as soon as they would have killed him off, I would have stopped watching. He is the hook for me on that television show.
Yeah, just all the stuff he does. I mean, from the very beginning when he pushed that, spoiler alert, when he pushed that reporter onto the track.
Yeah, Zoe Barnes.
Yeah.
It's such good stuff, man. And I'll watch the new season, and I'm sure I'll be upset because there's going to be some sloppy way to end this whole thing, or they're going to put him in jail, or I have no idea how they're going to do it. It's going to suck, but I'll be there. I'll watch it till the end because I'm a fan of the show and I wanted to see more.
Hey, did you hear about GameStop? They'll be offering a video game rental service with its Power Pass program.
Yeah, this came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's like, and it says that gamers can purchase 6 months for $60 and check out one used game at a time for as long as they like during that period. And signups will begin on November 19th. So what do you think about that, Daniel?
So I used to work at GameStop, and from what I'm reading online, all the comments, people are generally, and it's really weird because most of the internet is angry and against everything, but gamers were like, yeah, you know what, that's not bad. $60 for 6 months, $10 a month. That's less than the video games that I buy. And I can just rent the games and beat them and not spend, $180 a month on these 3 new video games when I can rent and play 17 games in 1 month and only spend $10. So I thought that was really interesting that most people were on board. The reason, the pessimist in me, and the reason I didn't think it would work, and it might not, maybe people are just talking on the internet, maybe they won't support it with their dollars, but the reason I didn't think it would work is because there was a return policy at GameStop for any used game. You can return it within 7 days as long as you have the receipt, no questions asked. So what most people would do, people without a job or students or whatever, people with too much time on their hand would check out they'd buy a used game, beat it in a day or two, and then bring it back, return it, and get another used game. And it sucked. Yeah.
I can see a loophole there, definitely.
So that's why I'm like, I don't know if that's going to work, because people can just spend $7 only and then just keep abusing the program. Although our store, we cracked down on it. Like, we would write down on the receipt, like, okay, you returned this twice already. This next one's pick out your final one, or, that's it. And it would help crack down a little bit on it, but there's only so much you can do, but I'm very curious to see how this works, because they have not been growing as a company, and they need to innovate and do something else to try to make money in a different way. And I think by doing this, it's a sign of someone up in the company is thinking outside the box.
Right. I mean, they got to do something, because, with digital downloads now, bigger and better every day, it's kind of a dog-eat-dog world. So they have to think of something.
Absolutely, and the used game market is a great thing. I'm a fan of physical media. I'm not sure. I think you are as well. Like, you like to have a physical comic book. I like to have a physical movie.
Yeah, I'm kind of a mixture on those things. I've come to the point, especially with movies, where I'm running out of room in my cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
I've probably got over 500 movies, so it's it's a tough choice, but especially if it's a movie I'm not crazy about, but I like it a lot, I'll still buy it digitally, $10 or less.
Oh, where are you buying your movies from? I want to know where the movies are $10.
iTunes. iTunes will do sales.
Okay.
Also the Vudu.
Yeah, I've checked Vudu. That's where I redeem like my digital codes for my Blu-rays. And generally, the movies there I've seen are like almost retail, which I understand why, because they don't want to undercut the retailers that have that help out these movie studios so much.
Huh.
But I don't. If I bought something on iTunes, like I have the Simpsons movie because it was free as a free redemption at one point, but there's no way for me to link that up to our television that I know of, at least, because we use our PlayStation to watch movies.
Well, they just recently did. Disney used to have their Disney Anywhere program,
Mm-hmm.
and it would link any Disney movie between both Vudu and iTunes.
Okay.
And they switched it. Now it's called Movies Anywhere. So both my accounts have integrated on both sides. So, like at work, we have a Vudu account on our TV there, and I can watch any movie that I have on iTunes or Vudu there.
That's actually a really good way to have some background noise is a Vudu account. I didn't even think about it. We just use Netflix, and soon most DC and Disney properties are going to be off of Netflix, so we got to come up with something new soon.
Right.
So speaking, you work at a comic book shop. Coming to all comic shops, and I'm sure you guys are ordering a shit ton of these. Saga is finally going to be made into it's going to join the line of Funko Pops.
Yeah, I could just feel the nerd joy, the announcement of this, because everybody's like, Saga, you got to be kidding me. People are always coming in asking for the latest pops at our store.
Mm-hmm.
Just wait, they'll be here soon, because we don't always get them as soon as like Walmart or Toys R Us, but we do get them. Getting back to the Saga ones, there was a previous solicitation of a Lion Cat Free Comic Book Day exclusive that'll be released next May, and they're also coming out with an Alana, Marco, Prince Robot IV, the Will, and Lion Cat, and let's see. Barnes & Noble will have an exclusive pink Lion Cat.
They can have it. They can keep that one.
And Diamond will be having the Bloody Lion Cat, which is the comic shops, of course.
Yeah, we're getting the good one.
Oh, yeah. And Hot Topic will have Isabel. All these coming out in winter of 2017 and 18.
Yeah,
awesome.
So it was listed as Q4, which it bleeds into January.
Right.
So we'll see when they finally solicit it in previews. So we'll find out. But that Lion Cat Free Comic Book, they already had several customers come in and pre-order that. So this whole line of the Saga Lion Cat and the Will and everyone else I think it's going to do extremely well. And people are thirsty for Saga merchandise because it's really not out there.
Well, I know they still have like the Marco and Alana. They have the twin pack of the action figures. But
those were exclusive, weren't they? Like through either right through Image or San Diego. I can't remember. I just know we can't order it.
Y'all can't? We've gotten like 3 or 4 of them at our store.
Through Diamond?
Yeah, I think we got them through Diamond. I believe so.
All right. Well, I'll have to check tomorrow because we need to have those.
And we have the stuffed Lion Cat that's about 2 feet tall.
Yeah, plushes don't do too well at our shop.
Oh yeah, we have quite a few kids. They come in and get all the little stuff, but we're still sitting on one of the 2 Lion Cats we've had.
Gotcha. So yeah, look for those coming out again at your local comic book shop, winter 2017 or early winter 20. I don't even know how to call that. Early spring / winter 2018. It's a weird January or February possibly. How about that?
Right.
Moving along here onto some superhero movie news, and Kelly and I have been waiting for this one for many years. If you go back on the podcast you listened to 2 years ago, we've been like, where the fuck is the Shazam movie? Chuck star Zachary Levi has been cast as Captain Marvel in Warner Brothers' Shazam film, according to The Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah, it is unknown if Dwayne The Rock Johnson will appear as Black Adam in Shazam, but is set to star in his own solo film.
And this puts it they're aiming for an April 5th, 2019 release, so about 2 years away. And this is ahead of Flashpoint, Batgirl, and Suicide Squad 2.
Suicide Squad.
I mean, I'm sure Black Adam has to show up in Shazam, right? There's no way they don't put Dwayne Johnson in this movie.
Right. I mean, he's got to at least have a cameo at the end, if not, being the main villain.
How excited are you for... Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I also would think about Dr. Savannah as the main villain, possibly. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
He might be the main villain in the first film. Who knows?
I mean, they've got to go with, but maybe it is Blake. I don't know. They can go in several different directions, and once again, like Kelly and I have been waiting for a Shazam movie or appearance or something for a while now, and ever since they announced Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam, we're like, okay, it's coming, and then this news came out where, well, he's getting his own solo film, and it's like, okay, where's the Captain Marvel movie? They're like, well, I don't know, just wait. And then now they announced it, so it's finally coming 2019. Obviously, they rearranged some kind of schedule because if you remember, we were supposed to get Cyborg in 2019 and then Green Lantern Corps in 2020, but that's all changed, and I'm sure that has to do with the success of Wonder Woman and Batman v Superman and all of that has fed into the machine of, okay, we need another Batman movie, we need a Man of Steel 2. Then now we're finally getting Shazam.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm curious to see how Zachary Levi can be, Captain Marvel. I mean, he doesn't seem like the physical type. That's my main question right now.
That's what Kelly was saying too. Like he's small, but I once again reminded her Ben Affleck, Heath Ledger. It's all these like I'll never question casting again ever. I'll just be like, yep, I'll see it whenever it comes out. Well, I'll judge it then. I'm not working for Warner Brothers. I could never do the stuff they're doing. So I trust that they at least have a better shot at doing this better than I can.
Okay. Let's see. After the Inhuman minimal 3.5 box office intake and poor reception, IMAX CEO Bob Gelford stated that the company will be more careful with its theatrical space and offerings.
So, quote here from Gelford, who said, "Going forward, we intend to take a more conservative approach, consistent with the Game of Thrones approach." That feels weird to say it like that. Game of Thrones approach to capital investments and content, end quote. And he told this to Deadline.
Yeah, according to Gelford, Inhumans didn't work in IMAX because viewers expected the Marvel Cinematic experience in the production, but got television quality instead.
Gelford continued by saying customers expected a production akin to a mega-budget blockbuster movie rather than pilots for a television show, end quote.
Yeah, and the final episode of The Inhumans will air on November 10th on ABC.
Are you watching Inhumans? Did you see the pilot?
No. I've heard word of mouth at the store, and everybody says it's not the best in the world, so I'm just like, I've got too much on my plate. I'm going to avoid it unless it was great. So,
See, it's really weird because if this had worked, people would be praising Disney and Marvel like, this is so innovative. Why haven't people done this before? Television and IMAX and then show the TV. But it didn't work, and people are like, well, of course it didn't work. Like, why would it? So I don't really blame Disney for giving it a shot. Like maybe it would have been amazing, but in this case it didn't work. Live and learn.
I think really what it was the property. I just don't think the Inhumans is what your average Joe thinks of Marvel. I mean, if it had been a Spider-Man or Hulk or Avengers or whatever, then it might have been product more successful.
And well received, yeah. I don't think we're going to see an Inhuman season 2.
I don't think we are.
Final bit of news this week, and this has to do with comics. So once again, we sell the stuff. And if you have any questions, please ask us anytime you're listening to this on Twitter. But DC Entertainment will be running Doomsday Clock ads in movie theaters.
Yes, retailers can opt in with the local theaters to have their store's info added to the commercial at 50% reimbursement from DC.
And these are set to begin on November 22nd of this year. Doomsday Clock is going to release on that day. How could I forget? It's going to be fucking massive. This is the right move for DC as always. Like ever since Rebirth started, like they've worked more with comic shops than they did at the tail end of the New 52. They've been like, okay, look, we sales have been terrible. What can we do? What is different? Which most publishers, Marvel doesn't do as often. Like they haven't done it even now. And DC has been very receptive, and they're one of the things that Comic Shop said is you guys aren't giving us enough material to promote your books. Like, it can't just be Twitter and Facebook all day. Like, people like stuff to have. They like posters. They like pins. And sure enough, like, every time there's a Dark Knight's Metal one-shot with the different characters, they send along a baggie of pins to promote it. And again, readers love that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, plus you got to get more people out there that aren't online,
Mm-hmm.
the grandmothers, the parents who aren't as hip as, their kids. And if they know about it, the more people will be into that type of thing. They'll get it for the kids or whatever.
Have you seen the Doomsday ad that they're using, or that the sample one that they're going to go with?
No, I haven't.
So it's very similar to their DC Rebirth one, in which it's like it shows the comic panel of Dr. Manhattan with the button, the comedian's button, and it's kind of like pseudo animated, where it's like still it's really hard to describe, but it's like a motion comic, and it shows him like picking up the comedian's button, and then Gary Frank, Jeff Johns in DC's biggest, and it's pretty cool. I don't know how many casual readers are going to run out and be like, oh my God, this is great. I think if they showed something like Manhattan punching Superman or something crazy I think that would have captured people's imagination way more, but I think they want to save that stuff for the issue.
I think it'd be really big if they would start advertising on TV more often. I mean, or the, streaming service like Hulu or something like that, because I think I would reach more people. Because your average everyday comic shopper who comes in every week already knows about it. We've had people at the store asking for it. When's it coming out? When's it coming out? Which cover can I get? So
it's going to be an incredible event for comic shops everywhere. I think I'm afraid that I know I didn't order it. Like, we know we didn't order enough. You can never even guess as to like, oh, maybe it's going to be a hard number to pin down, because once orders are in, that's when everyone's going to come in like, hey, can I pre-order one of each cover? It's like, oh man, suddenly you're down to 40 copies. And
right. Because I mean, you have to order in advance, 2-3 months. And we do have like final order cutoff, but
yeah, it only helps so much.
Right.
No, I think it's great that they're doing it, and I agree for sure that a television audience would hit more, especially with movie theater numbers not being what they were in the 90s, but they're going to run these before Justice League, which obviously is going to help. I mean, that's your fan base. Those are your readerships that you want to hit. And you want people to be like, hey, what's that Doomsday Clock thing that I've been hearing about? Oh, well, let me tell you. Like, any good comic shop will give them the breakdown and explain to them, like, and here's the hardcover for the button. You got to read this first, and right. or don't just pick up issue 1. Like, just jump right in. So I think it's good. And one thing, I don't know if you went to the retailer summit meetings when Didio and Lee were going throughout the nation, but someone brought that up. They said, why don't you guys have like one of the cast members from The Flash, like, do a little television promo before the show, like, hey guys, and be sure to pick up the latest issue of The Flash, or during Preacher, like, have the actors like on their Twitter or Instagram, like, show off the trade paperback and promote it.
Exactly.
And Didio was actually like, believe me, we've thought about it, or we've tried, and we've talked to the other companies about it, but the way they run things is their television side, even though they're all owned by Warner Brothers, is like its own separate company, and it has its own budget. And the movie studios is its own separate thing and has its own budget. And then the comic industry is its own thing. So they actually have to work out contracts and deals with their own individual entities. And it's not just hey, can you throw this up on Twitter real quick? And like they wish it would be that easy, but there's just a lot of hoops to jump through from what the deal was saying, that it's just not as easy as it should be. Yeah,
well, our store, we do advertise during those time slots when The Flash or Legends of Tomorrow or Arrow or whatever's showing, and we also have occasionally we'll show a commercial right before the movie at the movie theater. So we try to do our own thing, even if DC or Marvel doesn't. So are you guys gonna opt into this particular ad? I imagine we will. Yeah, it seems like I don't know what the prices are, and I haven't looked at it. I know it's in the last time I looked, it was for DC Rebirth, which we were like, we don't know. We didn't know how Rebirth was going to do. There was a lot of uncertainty.
I can't remember what it was like in the thousands, like 2,500 or 3,000, and then they would give you the 50% reimbursement. So, but the other thing is you can't really measure how effective it is unless you have like a coupon code to go with it, or like a mention this at the store and get 25% off. So I don't know yet. I don't know if we typically don't opt into this, but it's great that other comic shops are taking advantage of it, and hopefully it pays off, and, you know, it brings in a wave of new readers for the short or the long run.
Right.
So that does wrap it up for our news for the week. Before we head into our comic book highlight this week, we do have a couple of Patreon shout-outs.
All right. The first one we got is Alexander, who's at Swordfish Show. You can also follow him at purpleswordfish.com. And he has begun his Bucks franchise weekly series on YouTube.
Yeah, if you're a big fan of Madden, please head on over to purpleswordfish.com. It'll redirect you straight into his YouTube channel. And he's been doing, like, as you mentioned, weekly franchise updates and videos. So you can follow along on his Bucks team as he builds them, as they get injured, and how he has to supplement other characters and make other players work. And you can tell I watch football. But I'm a big fan of his football, his channel, his videos. I'm always commenting and watching because his commentary is great. I still don't know how he does it. And the other shout out goes out to Lourdes and Katie. And Katie was super excited when they announced the solo Deathstroke film, because Deathstroke is one of her, I think it is her favorite DC character of all time. So when she heard that, she was over the moon. She loves that Manganiello is still on board. And it, you know, as I mentioned before, I think people are forgetting that there was at least a Deathstroke scene filmed for this month's Justice League.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I'm a pretty big Deathstroke fan, even though I haven't really read the comics lately. I mean, I've read them during the New Teen Titans run back in the 80s.
Oh, the good stuff.
Oh yeah. And I met the actor who played him on Arrow. His name slips my mind right now.
Yeah, I've seen the first 2 episodes of Arrow and then the Constantine one, so I'm not sure who that is. But I guess he's returning to the show. Yeah,
he's in this season's Arrow. And he's more of a good guy. He's not quite at odds with Oliver. So
okay,
yeah,
that's not too bad. And we're seeing that with Metal now, where Deathstroke's like, look, I'll fight these guys if there's money. So he does not care.
Mercenary.
So thank you so much, Alexander and Lourdes and Katie, for your Patreon backing. And to the rest of our Patreon backers as well, John, I can actually thank you as well for backing the Reasons I'm Broke podcast personally. Thank you so much.
Yeah, anytime. I just love hearing you and Kelli all the time. It's like you're there in my living room or my car. We're just listening to your conversation. It's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much. And as I mentioned before, and I always we continue the show, and the fuel is the listenership and the fact that there are people downloading and listening and interacting with us on Twitter and on Facebook and online. And this helps us make the show even better for everyone out there. So, there's that saying that you see it repeated all the time. Not all heroes wear capes, and our Patreon backers definitely have helped throughout the years and hopefully making a higher quality production for everyone out there. So once again, thank you, John, and to the rest of our Patreon backers.
You're so welcome.
Final thank you also to decalavenue.com for the help at the $5 decal reward tier. If you would like to join the Patreon core, the Broquette core, you can join for as little as $1 a month. That equals out to 25 cents an episode. If you feel like you are getting 25 cents worth of entertainment or information or comedy out of today's show or any podcast episode, head on over to patreon.com/thereasonsimbroke. There's also a link at the bottom of our page, thereasonsimbroke.com.
And next we'll go into our comic book highlight of the week. Which this week we're talking about Dark Knight's Metal, the Merciless #1. Peter J. Tomasi and Francis Manapul.
Tomasi wrote this particular one shot, and Manapul was all the art in this book, the colors, the pencils, everything. And this continues the Dark Knight's Metal tie-ins, the foil covers that people are loving. Like, they are eating this stuff up.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's definitely the biggest seller in our store right now. People are just coming in and picking up, even if it's people I never see before in the store. And, they're always coming in. Oh, you got the new metal, you got the new one shot this week, the new crossover, whatever. They're just eating it up right now.
Yeah, anything metal, exactly as you mentioned. And you don't see it often. Like, they do crossover events all the time. And in this case, like, they did it right. And I think it's because they were, they're genuine with the event. They're saying they're very clear about it. You can just get metal if you want, or here's this one shots, or here's these tie-ins if you want, but here's metal. And then people read the first one. They're like, this is really fucking good. They read the Red Death and they're like, these are really, really good. So it goes to prove that, yeah, you can do a ton of tie-ins. You can do a ton of one shots. If the story is good, the readers are going to support all of it.
Right. So, what was your favorite one shot so far, other than the Merciless? I mean, let's start there.
Yeah, let's cover the Merciless first, then we'll go into the others. This was probably the one I was most excited for because I love Tomasi. I love Batman and Robin from the New 52, and my favorite Rebirth book is Superman, which again is by Tomasi and Gleason. So I was like, this is going to be the best one out of all the one shots. And the way these are, if you haven't picked up any of these tell you the background of a particular dark version of Batman as he merges with one of the characters or villains from the DC universe. So in this case, it's a what if Batman had taken over became the new God of War, essentially. So kills Ares, gets the powers, and what does he do? And much like these other one-shots, it corrupts the Batman in a way that I'm glad they're selling well and people are liking them. But I still can't get over the fact that it's like, well, Batman wouldn't do all these things. Like my Batman, and I know this isn't our Batman because it's all in a dark multiverse, but I'm like, no, he's not that easily corruptible.
Well, this is sort of like, if you're familiar with Lord of the Rings, this is like the one ring to rule them all. I mean, even the most innocent person, can be corrupted by the power of whatever they wield. I just thought it was really creepy, especially towards the end when he reveals that Wonder Woman didn't die at the beginning and that he took care of her, so to speak.
Yeah, that was really, really screwed up.
And the art was incredible. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed how he came through at the beginning and took care of all the government heads, Amanda Waller and
Steve Trevor.
Yes, I mean, he was almost as badass as Darkseid. I mean, he took his time with his sword. It was amazing.
Yeah, I've got to say, I think the best, and I don't think it's necessarily Tomasi's fault at all, because I'm sure he was told, like, here's a paycheck and you do one of these one shots, and then he did it. But I think the best part of this particular one shot, and I do think it does have, is the best artwork, in my opinion. And it's just because I love Manipool so much, and I can't ever get enough Manipool. So I think this was probably the best book to at least look at out of all these one shots so far. And I didn't get the Devastator yet, so I haven't taken a look at that. But I mean, this was gorgeous to look at.
Oh man, I know. I'm really disappointed that he's not on Trinity anymore. I've always enjoyed his Flash, wherever else he pops up. But this is probably, to be honest with you, this is probably my favorite of the one shots so far.
Oh, nice, very good. Yeah, I mean, again, Tomasi is kind of the best. He's amazing. My favorite one shot would I guess it'd be the Red Death. It was. I don't know, man. It's tough. Like, I can't really point to one and say this one was awful and you shouldn't pick it up. I really like The Drown too. I think that's an interesting concept of where I don't remember what they called her in this, but their version of Batman, she says, yeah, in this universe everyone is gender bent, and it's, there's a male Aquaman. That's kind of weird. Or there's a male Mara. I don't know what they.
I think she was Bryce Wayne or something like that.
Yeah, something. And I don't know. It's out of all of these one shots and characters so far, do you think they will keep any of them around post Metal?
I hope so. I hope some of them, make it. And at least for another miniseries or something down the road, or to at least take the best one and have him be like a recurring villain,
Mm-hmm. Probably the Batman Who Laughs.
Yes, yes.
That one, I think we've gotten the most pre-orders. It eclipsed the Red Death.
Oh, it has.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
At least at our shop. But I think that's a product too of like the Red Death came out and most people weren't aware because that was the first one. And then when it came out, people were like, "Oh, I gotta have that. What's the next one? Oh, well, there's these other ones, these, and these. The Batman Who Laughs. Oh, what's that one? Well, that's Batman and the Joker. Yeah. Can I get 2 of those?"
So everybody can pre-order stuff at your store. You have like a pull system or subscription service?
We have a subscription program, and we also have regular pre-orders. Like we're like, yeah, man. Like I tell them straight up, it's like, hey, do you want me to put a couple aside for you? And I do have a limit, of course. I'm not going to say, yeah, here's 40, unless they order ahead of time. They're in the previews catalog. Then I'm like, yeah, I'll order you 40 if you want, but it's got to be. Obviously there's limits. They got to be a subscriber. You got to know them. It can't just be anyone that's like, can I get 100 copies of Dollface number 18? So. But yeah, they can pre-order, and we'd put them aside, we put them in the system. And then as soon as the issue comes out, the program flags it and we're like, okay, we got to call this guy and let him know that his book's coming out tomorrow and we've got it on hold. So yeah, you don't have to be a subscriber if you want to pre-order certain issues, but if you want an ongoing hold, then yeah, you have to become a subscriber.
Yeah. Okay.
You guys handle it differently at yours?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, we're more of like a mom and pop type store. We've been open for 32 years now. Mm-hmm. And I think we're looking at ways to streamline our pull system sometimes, but right now we pretty much cater to our pull customers first, our subscription customers.
Oh, of course.
And to the general public, because we can only do so much, because a lot of people will come in and ask for our books that have come out, and we do searches for them. We get the book in, and they never come back. They never call. We call every time we get a book in for somebody.
Right.
We had stuff sitting there for 6 months or longer sometimes. And so it's kind of a tough deal to pre-order for everybody. So we're more catered towards our pull customers.
No, for sure. And we're the same way. We the books go to subscribers first, and then if there's extras, then goes to everyone else. And typically we do order so that they hit the stand, so that we can cover our subs, our pre-orders, and then everything else for our because there's customers that don't like to pre-order, that want to just go to the walls and pick up every Wednesday, and that's totally fine. There's no wrong way to collect. But the biggest problem for sure, and then I listened to another podcast called My Comic Shop History, where this guy, he interviews different comic shop owners throughout the country. And the one reoccurring theme is people saying, and it's not just, non-regulars, but it's also subscribers where they disappear and you never hear from them again. And these comic shops are stuck with this product. And I think there's a big miscommunication with customers and comic shops in which, they think that you can return the product, or that I guess they don't make that connection of these shops pay for this ahead of time with the confidence that someone will come in and buy it.
I can totally see your point there. We even have some subscribers, they only come in once a year. So we have like a long box of books for them.
That's insane.
And then we'll have, some pull customers that, just drop off the face of the earth, and they'll have, half a long box or a long box of books. But we have measures to take care of that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, we have certain limits in place as well as far as how long, we can hold certain things. But, that's still, no matter how a shop does it, there's no, that's always going to be an issue, I think, until like full returnability happens, which won't ever happen. But it's, it's just a part of, being a responsible comic shop and then being a responsible buyer too. So, communication is key as always. Never, what I always say is like, people shouldn't feel ashamed of like, hey, if you can't pick it up, the sooner you tell the shop, the sooner they can, not order the next 2 issues of, I don't know, and the Hatchet, something that's not going to sell.
Or some of those adult books from Boundless. I know we've had full customers that want every cover from whatever, like Helena or jungle fantasy or whatever. And we get those in, and if the customer didn't want it, we have to bag and board some of them and cover up the naughty bits.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a weird. It'll be an ongoing thing, but more insight into the comic shops from John and I.
Exactly.
So that about wraps it up for the podcast for today, John. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope the Brokettes enjoyed it. Where can they find you if they want to shoot you a tweet or a message?
Okay. On Twitter, I'm at John, JOHN 72TEX, John 72 Tex. And I'm also on Instagram. Look for me at Johnny Two Chips. It's Johnny with a Y and the number 2 chips.
There will also be links in the show notes for today's podcast, so you can also find them through there. And generally, you'll post up collections of your personal stuff, statues, the latest New Comic Book Day pickups, and then you'll interact with people on Twitter too.
Oh, all the time.
So thank you again, John, for joining us on today's episode. Next week, we have another scheduled guest. I'm not going to say the name ahead of time in case something changes, but yeah, we have 2 more guests lined up before Kelli returns. And once again, she may return in 2 episodes. We'll see. She is at Palpa Kelli on Twitter. If you want to follow the podcast, it is at Reasons I'm Broke, Facebook.com/The Reasons I'm Broke. So once again, thank you again, John, for joining us. I'm Daniel.
I'm John.
And I'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.